I think personally, I learn much better from a blended environment, and having a mix of men and women on the course. Maybe that's just experience. Even on my BNA license, there it was much more majority men on that particular course. But the most amount of learning is that I did is actually learning some of those aspects from the men's game or men that work within the women's game. And trying to get their perspective on things. If we always have a female only course, and I think they're great, and I have tutored on them as well, and I do see real value in it, but sometimes you kind of you may miss out on that input where actually there's so many things. They are exactly the same. Both men and women both play football. There's no difference between the sport itself. Yes, there's arguments to say they are different games and they have aspects of different games, but there's so much to learn from people that work within the men's game, and just getting their information on how they deliver sessions or how they motivate their players. And there's so many take homes. So I think for some people it is very daunting to step into those coaching courses that are heavily male, but if we want to improve that ratio, we have to start attending some of those courses.
I exactly same. Personally, my courses that I've completed have always been mixed. I don't think I've ever been the only female in the room on my courses, so I'm quite fortunate in that sense, because I know that's the experience that some people have. And to be honest, I've always been a little bit sort of, it should be mixed, it should be for everyone, but I completely understand the sort of initial first parts, in particular for some people, for confidence. We've all spoken about confidence tonight, and how, especially if you're coming from playing, you play with other women and then you want to go into a similar environment. So I get that sort of want of seeing something familiar in sort of the environment that we're going into. But I personally, my coaching sort of over the last 3 years, I was coaching with a man for 2 years, and he was far more experienced than I was, and everyone at the club was very conscious and kept going, Chloe, if you want Will to go away, he can go away. And I'm like, I'm learning from him. I'm learning from what he knows technically about the game that I can take into my coaching. And I think that if we're able to sort of build those relationships in a female-friendly environment, then it's only an asset to us as female coaches, because we can learn, because there's this sort of, it's the confidence thing again of around, well, that, they've known football since they were about 4, they've been doing it since they were, however young. I'm going to take advantage of that, and I'm going to learn as much as possible from the guys around me, and then put that into my coaching and make myself the best coach that I can be from what they're doing. I mean, I steal their sessions all the time. But I think the flip of that as well is that in my club, I'm asked questions regularly by other male coaches who want to understand a little bit around a female player perspective, because they're trying to understand their 12-year-old in their team. And so I think it works both ways there. And I know that obviously all women aren't all coaching in the women's game, but there's an element of it working both ways, and sort of the game, both games benefiting from having that sort of female-friendly environment.
I think it just gives you that, and I think somebody's already said it, like if you can see it, then it gives you that opportunity to later on be it, and that's so important, because they have experienced a lot of similar things, like probably a lot of people on the call have had, that associates with women's football and its past and where it's going, and all the comparisons that happen between a men's and a women's game, and how difficult it can be to be the only female in the room. And seeing those people that have come through those pathways, and not just necessarily at the top of the game, but even in terms of grassroots, you only have to go so far as your local park at the weekend, and you see how many people are of a male background, and you start to realize how dominated it is by males, and there's nothing wrong with that women's game, but sometimes it's really nice to have that shared experience with somebody, and have that opportunity to speak to people, and so many people within the women's game have similar stories. And I think it's, you just really relate to one another, and you can really kind of ask them questions, and a lot of the time they'll come back with an answer that's kind of really inspiring to you as a coach.
How do we solve it? And that's it, we. I think it's very important not to see this as a kind of women's issue. And what we tend to do in the game is to say, you know, certain people are discriminated against, so what are they going to do about it to create the change? But this has to be a change that everybody makes happen. So something which is really important is to mainstream these issues, and what I mean by that is bring those issues right into the forefront of every policy and practice that the FA engages with in the kind of the public sector world. You know, there's the Equality Act, and if you're a local authority or if you're a government department, you've got to consider in every policy and practice that you bring about how that impacts on people who are protected under the Act. And I think that's a kind of good analogy that we could bring across really to bodies like the FA, because we do see it as a public body and to a certain extent. You know, it runs our national game. So everything that it does, it should be thinking about, how does this impact on these groups? Does it impact on them well? Does it impact on them adversely? How can we promote their interests? And so I think if we can get that change within the organisation, great. That is going to be a challenge. What we can do on a personal level is connect with each other. So women connecting with each other is a really positive step, I think, because we do need that support. We do need that shared experience to support each other. But having our male allies as well and connecting with them is really important.
There's more role models for the girls that want to become the players and think they can go that far, or the girls that maybe might even already be in academies and know that's an achievable goal. But I think it's important, as well as having those playing role models and the playing inspirations, why can't the girls have an inspiration or want to be a coach? If they're not seeing that, they're not going to know it's a possibility. So I think it's important for that reason that there's more women getting into coaching and just being more visible to the young girls that are coming up through football.
Do you know what? It's grown since I've started. I've seen so much more. I think we just need to put a spotlight on them. There's so many now, and they're just like with me. I've been a coach nearly 4 years. It's just only the last, since lockdown. I've been doing these webinars. I've been, you know, sharing my journey, sharing my story. I was in the local newspaper. It just took one little tweet. Someone I did a podcast just to help someone up, and she did a little thing, and one of the Ilford recorder read it and said, you know, it's really good. Can I interview you? And she interviewed me, and then I was on the newspaper, and then from there, people shared it, and then people were approaching me. Oh, amazing! You're doing a good job. That we're out there. We just need to really find them and help them. You know, I mean, since I started, like I said, there's so many more coaches, but still, we need to just make them role models and inspire other coaches to come through. You know, they're there. We should just find them really.
Hopefully, for the future, you know, we've got young men who are developing in different social circumstances, and schools are very good at this, I think, at promoting equality, and are taking, you know, maybe their own experience of positive female role models forward, and they can encourage and not have the same kind of views that we have to deal with.
Did you not get young people just get it? Generally, when you talk about it, it's more the decision makers, which are generally the older and a certain type. When I speak to young people, they're so intelligent, they just get it. And when they were, because I coach under 16, when I talked to them about issues when I was that age, I was like, I totally was not switched on. I was in my little bubble, my cotton wool bubble, and young people blow me away. That's why I'm probably still coaching.
It's really important to maybe get some more publicity on all these females that are now doing their coaching, because I know when I did mine, and there are now lots of women's recreational groups around the country, and from those women's recreational groups, we've now got, just for example, you know, in Kent, you've got the Bromley Bells and you've got Canterbury Old Bags, and you've got probably about 10 or so female coaches now from those groups. So I think, again, it's like shining a spotlight on these women who are actually getting into football now and are taking that coaching journey as well, because, you know, there's not enough publicity about these women, because they're obviously giving up their time to do it, and they're not only just going into coaching, they're also setting up wildcat centres for young girls to start playing as well. So you know, maybe that I try to sort of do an inspiring stories on these women, but maybe there's like a central place that we can celebrate all these women who are actually starting to do it, so that we can get it out there. And as we said before, you know, we can see these women are doing it and celebrate them at the same time, because there are, as you said, Mark, it's all volunteer. Most of it is all volunteering.
I think events like tonight where people can connect with each other are really important. And I think building on what Sharon's actually just said around confident people encouraging others and coming to people, and also giving them the confidence to be able to go to people as well. I think it's the visibility and the sort of, we are here, we are going to coach, and we are going to coach well.
Comparing to where I started, I've seen a massive with coaching support available now. There's so much support available. You can, you know, coach just do a BT Playmaker, and I think if you are interested in it, you know, definitely go for it. I think we just need to make sure that we get more coaches coming through so we can get more females involved. I mean, from when I started, I had 5 girls, and now we have over 32. I've got 2 teams in the league, and there's so many people are approaching me. So many clubs keep messaging me, can you join up? We've got the girls, but we don't have the coaches. It's so important we get these coaches coming through, and, you know, people that are thinking about, I think, just go for it. And we need to encourage more people to do it, become coaches, because the girls are there. It's growing. Football is going to females is in a good direction. It's very positive. So from, you know, it's growing so much, and we're just lacking the coaches, and we just need to, you know, work together and try and encourage more females coaches coming through.
It's really interesting, like hearing so many people talk about like struggling with confidence to come and talk to people. And it's interesting that even now, you know, with the coaching courses that I've done, particularly this year, and with COVID and everything that's happened, I just see such value in people like asking it, whether that's like an organized coaches group or some sort of level of communication where you can access people. I mean, I would you know, like really enjoy the opportunity to speak to coaches who are working at grassroots level, you know, even from an academy point of view, just to get an idea and to help and impart as much knowledge as I could, just the same as I'm asking people around me all the time, like, what do you think about this? And, you know, did you watch this? And trying to get as much information off them. So trying to open up the communication between all coaches and having some way of doing that. And I think Sharon and Mark having a conversation like we're having tonight, but also setting up some sort of coaching network that will allow that to happen, because sometimes it's so difficult to find that information that you want, or even if it's just a quick question about a session or an idea. Or I think someone put in the chat box about how do you keep girls motivated when they get older, and it just questions like that. Some people will have such good ideas, but it's sometimes it's finding that information and being able to have it put in front of you, or so that you can actually ask that question.
How do we ensure that we do have networks, and do we want them to be regional, or do we want them to be county? And those are most probably some of the conversations. But the other thing that we will send out to you following this is that there is a female grassroots social community link, which is where we can all join. I'll send you the link, and then those sort of questions you can just ask in this forum, and then we can respond and give you the signpost into some things. Then on a more sort of county level, then it's about maybe having that sort of maybe a monthly catch up or a 6-weekly catch up, just to see what people have been up to, and maybe taking it in turns to share a success story. Or maybe before that, someone coming in, I don't know how to solve this problem, which is the way I like to do things. And then we all come, listening to the problem and the scenario, and seeing if there's anything we can share to help the next steps for that coach. Or even finding, you know, buddying people up who live quite near each other, who are looking at different aspects in their journey where they can support each other as well. Because, you know, as a female, I always love doing things with other people. I always think it's more fun if you can discuss it as you do it sometimes, and reflect with someone, rather than battling away by yourself.
I would always see what's in your local area, what your county FA can help. I'd also see if there are disability teams in the local area, or if there's any grassroots teams for you. As I say, I would recommend the FA Player Maker. And I'd also get a pen and paper and write down why you would like to be a coach or get into coaching, and sort of build from there. I would also recommend shadowing. So even if you find out where your local grassroots club, can you shadow, because I did this for a couple of years, shadow different coaches to see what coaches are sort of involved. Also, if you have a disability and you have a PA or a support worker, can they help find the opportunities as well, or a PA for that? If in doubt, ask someone. As if you're looking at starting your coaching journey or qualifications, it's okay not to know everything, and just remember what your goals are. So whether it's picking up knowledge, whether that's you're doing it for individuals or the opportunity, but yeah. And as I say, the mindset of coaching is changing. So mindset is changing. Young people get it. It's the decision makers that may make it a little bit challenging. But yeah, I would highly recommend it. There are some bad, but there's also goods that make me sleep very well at night.
Debbie, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I would just say to people, if you're thinking about it, do it. You are good enough. You are good enough. You will doubt yourself, but believe me, you are good enough. And even though we've talked about a lot of bad things out there, the fact that there are a lot of bad things out there mean that you're going to be a massive, massive improvement and a welcome addition to the game. So connect with people, get the support, but you are good enough.
You know, reach out, because knowledge is knowledge is power, but knowledge will help you along the way. And I'm just listening to Charlotte and Chloe there, and they've been coaching for a long time, and you can tell, you know, the experience there. But I think to just listen to everyone, that they did start somewhere, you know, that Chloe and Charlotte have got a lot of experience, whereas myself, I haven't got that much experience and just started. But everyone starts not knowing anything, so just believe that you will learn as you go along. And I'm looking at Chloe and Charlotte now thinking, yeah, that's really good, that they've inspired me, that actually you can learn about coaching and take it further. So I think you just, you know, got to believe in the beginning that everyone starts somewhere, but you will get there with experience and help.
I think that we've sort of, with everyone on the call tonight is here sort of for very similar reasons, in that we're all invested in the development of women in the game, whether that's players or coaches or, dare I mention, referees. But I think that that's sort of my big enthusiasm at the minute personally, is around what else happens around the pitch, and getting more representation in sort of the roles across the board, not just in refereeing and coaching, which are often, I think, the two that we all sort of pick up on, and then it's fantastic. But there's so much to football that is still not representative of the game. And I think that the more work we do as coaches, and the more visible we are, and the more vocal with confidence that we are, I think that changes, and that shifts, and it becomes a better game for whoever turns up at the pitch saying, can I have a go?
Don't be afraid to make mistakes. When you start your coaching journey, because you'll see that's a really key word in football, is coaching journey. Once you do, even before your level one, I mean, I'm doing my B license at the moment, and I probably know about 2% of football. I think it's different for everyone, and it is frightening, especially as, let's be frank, it's still a male-dominated environment, and for some, it could be that could increase your anxiety and stuff like that. But I would always say, reach out to other coaches. It doesn't matter if it's sort of same gender or people you're comfortable with. Obviously, asking questions is good as well. Speaking and obviously getting support from County FA.
Sam and I are working really hard across our regions to set up little communities and networks, and often the bit here, and obviously I don't want to speak out of turn, the bit here is like, oh, I don't know football. And I'd come back to your point earlier, Debbie, of going, what you talked about and how enthusiastic you were about it, you not once mentioned technical, tactical football. It was around connection. Would that be a fair worry that some people might be having that you challenge?
Yeah, and I think what I always say, we've had like students come to our club, they come from university and they find coach, and they're all very, they can be very structured. And I always say, we're delivering with children, not to them. And for me, it's that relationship. If you can get over that barrier, that everything, as you said, Emma, everything we do has got to be right, and we've got to have all this special gold dust knowledge that we scatter on the players. If you can move away from that to realise that actually it's about, it's a two-way process. It's about knowing the children or knowing the adults that you're with and finding a pathway together to get what they want out of the game. And I think that becomes much less daunting.
Even though I was scared, I said, I will do it. And I went there. I don't have a car. I hopped on a bus. It's 1.5 hour journey for me. I had to change the bus like in the midway, but I still went there. And the girls, they were like really welcoming. I mean, I was really worried that being very culturally different, how can I fit in? How can I speak their language? But then again, they warmed up to me, I warmed up to them, and it was really wonderful, right?
Yeah, I think it's, just about stepping out of your comfort zone, and, especially for those who are just thinking about coaching, if you enjoy it, go for it. You might love it, especially if you have a passion for it. In terms of being the only female, I think there's a greater acceptance amongst male colleagues now, which is fantastic. And I think, well, for me, because I'm a post-16 teacher, and the boys that I coach are all 17, 18-year-old lads. So they don't even look twice that I'm a female, because they just accept it. It is what it is. And I think, if you're good enough, if you're confident enough, it's about that, building those key relationships. And, you don't have to know all the technical and tactical details of like Pep or Jose Mourinho. That's not what they're looking for. It's about building those relationships and engaging with them, making it fun, creating this really good learning environment for them, to kind of achieve their potential.
I think probably the biggest message I would put out there is, you may start out not knowing about coaching, but you don't start from nothing. So we've talked about some of the skills that everybody brings. So being whether it be a player, you bring from your education, from your family, you bring from your culture and your background, vast experience and experiences and values. You also bring from being a worker, so you work in different environments, so your professional life brings great transferable skills to coaching. And anybody that's a parent on the call, there's some massive crossover. So although we might be apprehensive, you bring a lot to the role from other areas of your life. So we just encourage you to give it a go, and the support is out there.
If you can see in the link here, this is the Female Grassroots Coaches Club I was talking about. This is the new social platform. The link is on the bottom there. I don't know if Mark's going to pop it into the chat room as well, but this will be emailed out to you, so you can either do the QR code. As you can see, it's not just Mark and myself who will be responding to questions raised in the social community. It could be any one of our team, or it could be any one of you.